Republican State Representative Matt Shaheen of Plano. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it as always.
You bet.
As you know, there has been what's called House Joint Resolution 97 filed by Representative Charlie Guerin that basically would provide a framework for legalizing casino gambling and sports betting in Texas, and would send it to the voters because there would need to be a change in the state constitution.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, have you had a chance to look at it, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've read some of the highlights of the proposed legislation. I have a real issue with it. I don't think Texans are being told the real story about legalizing gambling in the state of Texas. When we talk about the scenario of people losing the money that they need for everyday expenses, I'm really concerned about crime. If you look at other states that have legalized gambling or expanded gambling, they were promised all these wonderful things about additional revenues and additional economic impact, but nobody talks about the increased homelessness, domestic abuse, those types of issues that come with legalized gambling. And those are the concerns that I have.
And what reports, when you look at that, what reports, from other states do you see specifically?
Yeah, so we looked at all of the states that had either legalized gambling or expanded gambling. And back in 2021, when Texas was increasing funding for education, those states were actually cutting education dollars because all the promises about additional revenue, those types of things, really didn't come to fruition. So they ended up looking at states where they increased gambling, but were cutting things like education, where Texas doesn't have gambling, and we were actually increasing education funding. And then the additional crimes and those statistics are clearly available. You look at even like extreme examples of Atlantic City and the process that they went through, and of course the casinos were a significant failure. And I really don't want Texas to be another Atlantic City.
And the people who support it point to, you mentioned, the revenue that Texas is missing out as far as our neighboring states, Louisiana and Oklahoma. And so are you saying that there is no payoff?
Well, here's the thing. Here's what the big challenge is going to be. We are sitting on $33 billion of excess revenues right now, $33 billion. And let me give you one example. We were promised all these things when we legalized horse racing way back. Not a lot of people realize this, but we take taxpayer dollars and we now subsidize the horse racing industry to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. So again, Texas is a great place to live. Our economy is thriving. We have so much opportunity and job growth. We're having a significant amount of increases in revenue. In the past 8 years, we've already increased revenues by $40 billion. Half of that went to education, by the way. So we're great economically. I know everybody's selling this real rosy picture about gambling. The problem is, if we're going to talk about gambling, we need to talk about increases in crime. We need to talk about increases in domestic abuse. Let's talk about the realities of what come with gambling.
And where do you see the level of support? Because I know the Speaker of the House, Dave Phelan, has reportedly expressed an openness as far as casino gambling is concerned. Perhaps the governor, I don't know about the lieutenant governor. The last thing I read, it seems like he said hasn't been any movement on this. So to change the state's constitution, to even get it to the voters, 2/3 of the House, so 100 lawmakers would need to approve on this. And are those votes there, do you think?
I've talked to countless House members, I've talked to countless senators. I'm just not seeing a lot of excitement around this. And I think the Speaker said it exactly right. I mean, the Speaker said, look, he's open to it, but he also doesn't want a slot machine at every corner store. And that's an issue too. We're promised that that's not going to happen. But if you look at other states, look at California, for example, they have over 50 casinos now, when they were given the promises that, we weren't going to have like slot machines all over the state. And in fact, they had a referendum for legalized sports betting in California, and it was actually defeated substantially. I think when these states see the experience and what ends up resulting with gambling, and they see the increases in crime, domestic abuse, welfare, homelessness, all those types of things that come with gambling, again, The gambling corporations don't want to talk about the implications to the citizens are negative. And California, for example, just voted to not allow sports betting.
And as far as the sports betting component here in Texas, I know former Governor Rick Perry has signed on and is supporting the effort based on what he said is it's already happening in Texas. Why not regulate it? Why not legalize it?
Yeah, I mean, you can say the same thing about a lot of different issues. You can say the same thing about drug use. You can say the same things about prostitution. Look, Rick Perry is a good friend of mine, but I'm sure he wouldn't change his stance on the legalization of those items. And so, look, I'm looking forward to the debate. I'm going to point out some of the negative consequences of gambling. Again, it sounds great. It really does. But again, think about the single mom who loses a month's salary and now can't afford formula for a little baby. What is she going to do? I can tell you the casino corporation's not going to be there for her. The state will have to step in. And you're talking about tens of thousands of people throughout the state of Texas every day that will be falling into those circumstances. Texas is better than that.
And at this point, you don't see that becoming a reality.
I really don't. I've talked to countless House members, senators, and everybody's aware of it. But look, we're dealing with a $33 billion surplus. We're trying to figure out how to cut people's property taxes, right? We have a border issue. We have foster care and adoption, right? We have a lot of issues before us. I just don't think members want to waste a lot of time on this type of issue.
State Representative Matt Shaheen of Plano, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us your opinions. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.